want to show you how to use the quick mask in Photoshop to select just part of your picture so you can work on that and leave the rest unscathed. Okay, we've got a picture here that is ripe for a bit of selective editing. A little owl sitting in a tree, and if we look at the branch here, because this picture was taken with a direct flash gun, we've got a nasty highlight which really sort of detracts from the owl. So we want to darken this branch down a bit and make the owl stand out a little more. So in order to be able to do that, we've got to be able to select the area that we want to effect, the area that we want to darken down, and leave the rest of the picture unscathed, untouched. Now there are various ways of making selections in Photoshop, and if we look over on the toolkit here, we've got several different ways. This is the marquee, the rectangular marquee, and if I just bring that cursor into the picture there, we can make a square or rectangular selection with that, which is obviously no good for us, so knock that off. We've got a lasso, which we can make a sort of a regular or irregular shape with. But what we're going to look at today is the quick mask, and I think it's one of the most intuitive tools because we're basically just painting the area that we want to effect. Now down here, first of all I have to select the brush. Down right at the bottom of the tool palette we've got the quick mask, which looks like a sort of little camera icon, and when I switch it on it turns red. Okay, and we're now in standard mode. Really? No, we're not. We're in quick mask mode. Okay. Now up here, no matter what colors you had set for the foreground and background, they would change immediately, go into the quick mask mode to black and white. But as you can see, when I paint on the picture, it's actually painting red. This is a kind of nod to the old-fashioned ruby lith that we used to use in our dark rooms to mask areas that we didn't want to be affected. Okay, now we can change the size of the brush. As I say, we've got the normal brush here, and if I right click on the brush, you'll see we get a nice little palette here which enables me to change the size of the brush and also the hardness. Okay, I've got the hardness set to 0 here, which gives me a feathered edge. If I just do it up here, you can see it's got a very soft edge. Take that out because we've gone over the edge, and you can change that. If I turn it to a hardness 100%, then I get a perfect circle with no. So we can change the hardness, we can change the size, and by getting these two things right is how we get our nice selections. Okay, now in fact I'm painting the branch now rather than the background and the owl, even though the branch is the bit that I actually want to change. But it's the smaller of the two areas. In fact, what I need to mask is the rest of the picture, not the branch. But when I've finished making my selection, I can invert the selection. So it makes sense to paint the smallest part of the picture and not have to paint the largest part of the picture. Now down here you'll see that I'm not being fussy at all about the edge, because this area here, we're going to darken this branch eventually when we've got it nicely masked. And this area down here, as you can see by looking at the info palette, is actually completely black anyway. So, okay, yeah, it is if I get the black bit. So there's no point in worrying about it because it can't go any darker. So we can leave that fairly, the edge fairly sort of unrefined, shall we say. Now down here, much the same. I'm not too worried about it. There's a little bit there which sort of Okay, we don't want to wipe that out altogether. But the bit that I do have to worry about is where the branch and the owl actually meet. So in order to make sure I get this painted rather nicely, I'm going to zoom right in, reduce the size of the brush, going to still keep the hardness on 0 because I want a soft edge, but now I can get right in amongst all the various different contours of this line and make sure that it is masked nicely. Now if I do happen to go over the edge like I've just done with that claw, all is not lost. You don't have to start again. All we have to do, if I just reduce the size of the brush right down, and going over to the tools palette here, if I just change the color from black to white by hitting this arrow which inverts the colors, then when I paint, the red will actually disappear. Okay, so you can, in fact I've got the brush a bit too big, so let's go back to black and just pop in a little bit there just to make it absolutely perfect. Now when you see these tutorials, very often they'll go on to another picture now and say, here's one I made earlier, but I want to do the whole thing, which won't take very long. I'm nearly finished, just to show you how easy it is. I mean, how long have we spent doing this now? I've been talking a lot, but the actual amount of painting I'm doing here is literally a few minutes work. So you can use this quite, you don't have to spend hours and hours doing it. But if I had to go around the whole owl, then I probably would spend rather too much time. Okay, so now we've got a fairly well refined edge. Just tidy up this little bit here. Now I've got a smaller brush. Yep, okay. And the other thing to do is to make sure that you haven't got any holes in the main thing. So I'm going to make my brush bigger again, and just I can see some little bits here that might need attention. Right, now the other little highlight that I want to look at is this one behind the head. Now once again, the background is black already, so I don't need to worry about the edge too much as long as I've got the bit that I want. Okay, so that's about it. Right, getting back to so you can see the whole picture. If I click the quick mask off down here in the toolbar, then you will see what they call the marquee. So the areas I have selected now are the owl, the background. This bit is not selected, this is masked. Okay, this bit down in the corner is selected, etc, etc. So we've got a mask here and another mask here. Now we don't want that, we want the opposite, because I want to darken the branch, I don't want to darken the owl. So all I need to do is go to the select menu right up here, click on there, and down here we've got a thing called inverse. So I just click on that and the whole mask has now inverted. So now this area and the owl and so on is masked, and the branch and the highlight here are open, so we can actually do something with that. Now just to prove a point, I'll click back onto the quick mask button and you can see the red is now covering the owl and not covering the branch. Okay, so the bit we're going to effect with our various little tools, or one little tool actually in this case, is this area. But you could do what you like with that. I can paint that purple or whatever I want to do, and it won't affect the rest of the picture. Okay, so clicking out of quick mask mode, we now have our selection. Now, I hate seeing these lines. They're kind of necessary because you want to see where your selection is, but you can switch them off by taking out extras on the view menu. And now we still have the selection in place, but we can't see the marquee lines, so they're not driving me nuts. Right, now what we need to do is to darken this branch, as I said in the first place. So we're going to use curves. If you've seen my other tutorials, you will know that the professional way to make adjustments of this kind is to use the levels and the curves. Okay, in this case curves will do. What I want to effect mainly is the highlights. So, and rather than actually bend the curve at the moment, the first thing I want to do is just drop this line here. So this is the white point. I'm going to bring the white point down, way down. Well, not that far. Okay, something like that, which darkens the tree rather nicely. Now, what it's also done is reduce the contrast. If I just take that down, right down, you'll see what I mean. So the contrast of all the little bits on here has been, you know, rather severely reduced, so it doesn't look very nice like that. I'll just pop that back roughly to where I want to be. And if I now click in the center of the line, which creates a new point, and drag that down, it will to some extent restore my contrast. Now what it's actually doing, if you look at the line here, this area above the point, or between these 2 points, has now got a steeper curve, so the contrast has been increased, and down here below the center point the curve has now become shallower, so there is less contrast. Now this represents the shadow area, the deep shadow area, which looked a bit too contrasty anyway, so quite nice to have a bit less contrast. See, this area here has now settled nicely into the background, and we can really see the owl. So if I just click off the preview, you can see before and after. So there's before and after. Okay, we've got a nice clean line because we cut the mask really nicely. We can see all the detail in the claws, and we haven't affected the claws in any way. The feather detail here absolutely completely untouched, because I paid a lot of attention to making sure that that area was masked properly. Over here you can see that not much damage has been done, even though we didn't have very much of a mask. It looks as though we've messed up a little bit here, but actually if I sort of click off the preview, go back to the original picture, this is an area that doesn't have any detail in it because of the way the flash was throwing the light. So this branch is actually casting a shadow on that branch behind it. Okay, so I think that's about right. So we click that to make that okay. I would like to just make a quick, oh no I won't, yes I will, right, I'm just going to make a quick crop here because I think we've got too much picture and not enough owl. So I like my pictures to be around about 2:3 in ratio. Now I could stick the numbers in here to make it exactly 2:3, but for these purposes I'm just going to do it by eye. So there we have the finished picture. We've taken down the branch, possibly a little bit muddy there, but we certainly brought the owl out and made him a little nicer. So there you have it. The quick mask is a very quick and intuitive way of selecting part of the picture so that you can change just part of the picture instead of the whole lot. So that's it for today. My name is Jeff Lawrence. See you next time.